Welcome to the Harley Carnes Podcast. Harley on the headlines. Going to take a look at some stories today. Thanks for being there. I really do appreciate it. That's why I like to encourage you to push those little buttons, the like, follow, and subscribe functions, and we'll grow it. That's the idea anyway. Here's hoping. Thank you. No president in memory has had the ability to focus acutely on as many different situations at one time as President Trump. That is really just observably true. So it's interesting to look to the side when you're paying attention to one primary issue, say the war with Iran, for example, to see what he might also be working on. I mean, he just might be working on a speech or an appearance related to the economy or the coming midterms or artificial intelligence tech issues. This is a good example of such a time. Iran has to be occupying a good chunk of the man's brain. The negotiations have reached a more advanced position. We know that because Iran said so. And they almost never admit there are actually even talks taking place. At the same time, Trump shows up at Red Rock Casino in Las Vegas to talk about the economy. I think you'll be seeing a lot more of that with the midterm elections approaching, because the economy is probably the most important issue on voters' minds going into the midterm elections, or any time really. In point of facts, plural, the U.S. economy has far more positives than negatives right now, and the trend is for better and stronger. Now, that's not him talking, though Trump does like to say that. That statement about the trend is statistical. Workers are making more money. Inflation is lower than it was when Biden did the handoff. For people who get tips on their jobs, there's no tax on that money. That's real money in your pocket. If you work overtime, no taxes on that income either. Federal tax cuts on Social Security puts more money in the pockets of seniors. If you have a baby, be sure to set up a Trump account for the child. The government salts the account with $1,000 tax-free. And you and your friends and family can add to that account, which is aimed at giving the child a big head start when they are ready for college or trade school or adulthood. It's a very powerful tool. And it's free to you. One of the things the president wants to do is give you a tax deduction if you buy a car that's made in America. And cars are typically our second largest purchase, right? This is good for sales, and it's good for the American auto industry. The stock market has never been so high. And before you pop off with a comment that, well, Wall Street is only for the rich, I'd ask you to ask yourself this. Do you have a retirement fund, a 401k or other fund that invests in stocks? If so, then Wall Street matters to you too, whether you pay attention to it or not. More people are working than ever before. Jobs are up. Unemployment is down. All those things are statistically, provably real. Now, if it were Biden or some other Democrat in office, the media would be using trumpets to tell that story. And your impression would be different about how the economy feels. Now, if and when oil prices come back down to a point lower than they were in April, when things got hot in Iran, then two things will happen. Gas and diesel and home heating oil and natural gas prices will all come down, and that's good for all of us. And since the price of everything is strongly tied to the cost of the energy needed to produce it, inflation will come down, and prices should fall too. Now, some merchants and distributors and everyone on the chain who sets prices would really like to keep charging the higher numbers, and some will, because as their supply prices come down, high retail prices mean profits, and you can bet some of them will take advantage of that for a while. You and I will need to pay attention to that. Hopefully the government will pay attention to that too. Now, one thing that should be obvious to anyone with a brain, and I assume that's you, the insanity of socialism and communism-inspired policies must not be allowed to flower in this country. We have the greatest economic engine the world has ever seen, which is why the world has been beating at the border doors to try to get in ever since the Statue of Liberty raised her torch. In that time, socialist governments have come and gone all over the world. Failure after failure after failure, one economic disaster after another. So why has that happened? Well, take a look at the history of it. It doesn't matter whether it's Venezuela or Russia. What happened was great promises were made. They were going to, take it from the rich, and they were going to give everything to everybody else and equalize everything, and nobody would have to make too much money, and nobody would make too little. And it was pure garbage, purely not true. The only way to make that happen is to force it, is to try to force it, and you can't do it because when you start trying to force people to give up the profits that they're making, they'll stop making the profits. Nobody's going to work for free for the government. That's going to be increasingly heavy-handed because it will have to be in order to make it happen. I mean, this country without a constitution, and that's their stated goal, is not just a nightmare. It just won't work. I mean, just, God, like I said, if you have a brain, you can understand that. Even if you don't have a lot of experience in life, young people can understand it. If people will just take the time and explain it to them, encourage them, get involved in conversations, Here's Trump speaking in Vegas, this clip from OAN, One American News. Everybody's got it, but this is theirs.
As communism is the greatest threat to our country in its history, including even World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, 9/11. I think it's the greatest threat. I could be the greatest communist in history. I tell everybody here, would you like a free house? We'll take one from your neighbor. Would you like free rent? We'll take it from whoever. We'll take your building away from the landlord that makes 2%, and we'll run the building ourselves. What they don't say, and what Republicans should say, is that at the end of a year, you'll have nothing but death, squalor, poverty. You'll have a life of hell. And that's what happens every single time. You look at Venezuela, where it was such a rich country 20 years ago, 22 years ago, and it happened, and we've really helped them, and we're going to help them. But, they're lucky because they're sitting on massive oil reserves, but we are going to help the people that we want to help. But every time this has happened, and you do that, you go through squalor, and add the word again, filth, crime, death, destruction, embarrassment. You lose your home, you lose your apartment, and that's where the communists will take us 100%. When I watch Abdul, he's full of shit.
It's hard to argue with that. I mean, it really is. Whether you like Trump's style or not, everything he said there is true. America's form of capitalism has ebbed and flowed like the ocean. It's gone through periods of recession and a couple of depressions and periods of super highs and medium highs and so forth. But always, there was the knowledge that the flow was coming, that the ebb is short term. And the bias, the trend, has always been upward, not the short-term bull and bear trends. I'm talking about the long historical direction for America has always been on the shoulders of the bull. That's just real. And that's not available in any system that tried socialism or communism. It didn't work that way. There's a cyber war going on at two levels. First, you have the usual domestic and other hackers who just want to see if they can get into this system, or that one. Troublemakers, sometimes criminals hoping to make money either by stealing it or by ransoming your system back to you. Second, there is a great cyber war with nation actors, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and other nations that are declared enemies of the U.S., and that have teams of hackers concerted efforts to crack into our systems, either for future reference or to cause mayhem. In New Jersey, there were 2 cyber incidents in the last week aimed at shutting down city water systems, and they worked. Only the ability to go manual saved the day. There have also been similar cyber attacks in Minnesota and in Michigan. Some have pointed fingers at Iran, but we don't know that, and the White House said they doubt it. Still, there's a message here. We need to improve our systems continually at every level, because when we make an improvement, the hackers keep improving as well. Cities, states, big corporations, and small. That's not political. That's just common sense. We got to do that. All right? Gotta love dogs. Gotta love dogs on surfboards for the World Dog Surfing Championship in the San Francisco Bay Area. This video from KCRA TV.
This next story is straight out of a popular Beach Boys song. Man's best friend got their chance to catch some waves. This is the Pacifica Dog Surfing Competition. Hundreds came out to watch with their furry friends. The competitors would take their pups out on the board. All the dogs had life jackets on, so don't worry. And when the perfect wave came, it was the dogs' time to shine.
We just want to go out and have a good time. This is Rocket's first time up here in Pacifica.
Pure joy. It's nothing but pure joy being out here surfing.
Look at those dogs go. Several awards were also given out.
I'm wondering how Charlotte, our cockapoo, would do. She loves the water. I'll have to make a video of Charlotte for a show to come. Not on a surfboard, because I can't surf at all. That would not be good. Anyway, so I guess that'll do it. I want to thank you for dropping by, for tuning in. Sure hope you'll come back. Bring some folks with you. You've given me a little bit of your time. I do appreciate that. Look, I know how precious time is. Sure is to me, anyway. I hope you'll pop in from time to time to harleycarnes.com. You can also find the podcast on Spotify and X and Facebook, too. I am Harley Carnes. Until next time, do yourself a favor. Make some good, conscious choices in your life. Make a decision to be happy. And fly safe. It is the only way to get there.